Hello and welcome to the world as we see it. Um, welcome. If you are viewing us for the first time, welcome. If you are a repeat visitor, you are particularly welcome. And if of course you've just stumbled across us, then thank you very much for joining us, and you're very, very welcome. I do need to give a shout out to user 0429080740 who have followed us since the last time we were transmitting. So thank you for that follow. That's absolutely wonderful. You are very, very welcome. And what I'm going to ask, because I'm running just a little bit late, later than usual. The best laid plans are that I start at 10:30. Unfortunately, I've only just finished my day job, which is teaching children online, teaching English to children online, and most of those children, actually all of those children today, have been Chinese. So I've only just said bye-bye to my last student, and what I have to do is now do some returns. Okay, so I am going to have to just get on with that before the cut-off. Now there is a cut-off which is in about 15 minutes, and I've got a whole bunch of these returns to do to say, that in terms of pronunciation they did a good job, and in terms of vocabulary, actually definitions and various bits of vocabulary were explained, and then in terms of grammar there were no real concerns, and I mean these are returns which we I do, they're pretty standard returns, I'm afraid to say, and I've been doing this job now for about 3.5 years. And at first I used to labour the returns. I would spend hours on these things, quite frankly, and for the amount of money that I'm being paid, in truth you can't do them individually, right? Because you're just not paid. You're not paid for the time, right? So what tends to happen is we end up having these kind of pretty standard responses to the various bits and pieces, and that's pretty normal. I know a fair amount of online tutors, and everyone does the same sort of thing. I know it seems wrong. Actually, what I do to compensate that is I am in touch with all of the parents of all of the students via either QQ, which is a bit like WhatsApp, or using WeChat, and I always send all of the words that the students didn't know, right, all of the words that they've asked me about. I tend to send those students' parents a list of the words. So when it says vocabulary has been sent in the e-class, in fact, I've sent them all to mum, and typically it's a mum. I've only, in the nearly 4 years I've been doing the job, I've only ever worked with one dad, and so that's just an interesting observation, and it's just a reality, really, in China, that it's the mums who are hands-on in terms of the education. Dad tends not to feature very much, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it's the same in every other country. I don't know what experience people have had, in Britain or the US or anywhere else. But in China, it's the mums really who we have to deal with, and so I do these returns for the website, and it just means I get paid for the job, right? That's a requirement. Now, it's taking, I think because I'm streaming, it's taking a little bit more time to do these returns than it normally would, and that's a little bit frustrating, but we'll see how we get on, and there's no way of avoiding it. So we're just going to have to, it's going to take as long as it takes, unfortunately. Normally it would take me about half an hour, and there was a reason that the class went on a lot longer than usual. Actually, it was just that in this case it was a class with an adult student, so wasn't a child, and it was just an interesting lesson for me as well. And so we ended up just having a bit of a chat about their job, and I'm very happy to go into a little bit of detail about it. Their job actually in China is as a doctor, and specifically a respiratory disease doctor, a COVID doctor, and so their job means that they travel all over China, and have been doing for the last 15 months, and wherever there are hotspots of infections, wherever it flares up, then they have to go, right? And they're involved in increasingly lots of international conversations, with colleagues around the world, sharing good practice in both directions, saying, this is what we're doing, how are you guys doing it? And very interesting chat. Now, as you know, if you've joined me on this stream before, then you know that last week I had my AstraZeneca vaccine, and that was last Tuesday, and in truth I felt on Wednesday as if I'd been beaten up, is the only way I can describe it. I literally, my limbs were heavy, my joints were aching. As I was breathing, I could feel my kidneys. I couldn't sleep, so I suffered last week quite severe insomnia for 2 or 3 nights. Well, actually, all of that's gone away now. I've recovered completely. But he was quite interesting. It was interesting to chat to him, where he was talking about the minority of folk who have these vaccines, regardless of which one it is, have these side effects. And from what he was asking me these specific questions, saying, so were your limbs heavy? And I was like, yeah, they really were. And he was like, did your joints ache? And I was like, yes, they really did. And did you suffer from insomnia? And I was like, yes, I did. It was amazing. So that was quite useful to know that actually my reaction to it was, although not too common, for those folk who do have a reaction to these vaccines, actually I was pretty normal, right? For somebody who had these side effects. Everyone else I know, specifically here in Thailand, who's had these vaccines, they've had no ill effects, and so that's really good to know. But we will see. My next vaccine coming up is at the end of September, so I'll keep you posted, tell you how I've got on, and I'm interested, if you want to. I'm interested to hear about your experiences as well. Just not to be nosy, but just because it's interesting, isn't it? It's something that everyone around the world right now has got in common, right? This is something that globally we are dealing with. It's I think looking forwards, I think we will all be talking about this period where globally everyone has something in common. It's one of those very and I know we're in the middle of it, and people are still very sick, and people are dying, and it's very, very bad. And we're not out the woods, especially here in Thailand, where it's gaining numbers by the day. It doesn't seem to have been stemmed, and it's difficult to know what all of us can do, apart from being locked down as we are, where we don't go out and see anyone, where even our church service is observing the rule of 5 in the building. Washing hands whenever there's an opportunity to use alcohol on our hands, then I think everyone's doing that. Everyone's wearing masks, but it's difficult to know what else we can really do, and all we can do is do what we have been doing, and hope that folk who we know aren't going to be affected by it more than what we have been economically, mostly here. Something like 85% of the population in the city where we live, which is Pattaya in Thailand, are unemployed, right? Simply don't have a job anymore, and so they've had to go back to their families. They've gone back to various provinces around Thailand, which has obviously spread the disease. So many of them went back at Songkran, which was this year. It was a bit early, actually, earlier than other months. We used to have Songkran in May. I think this year it was a little bit earlier. It's a bit of a nightmare. But I think looking forwards, in the same way that my grandmother would refer and talk about the challenges of the Second World War, I think that we will all be able, whoever we're talking to, whichever country folk come from who we talk to, we will all be sharing very similar lockdown experiences. And some of those experiences are going to be quite positive. More and more folk have been able to work from home if they've got a job, and I'm blessed that my day job is one I can do at home. Sitting here for hours at a time, actually earning a little bit of money. Don't get me wrong, it's the lowest salary I have ever been paid, so I'm earning less now than when I used to work with homeless people in my first ever job back in St Mungo's in London. But we're still here, right? My family, thanks to the support really of my sister and my stepmother and my auntie and a variety of other people who have at times lent us money, and in some cases given us some money and said, don't worry about it, pay it back when you're able to. Really, we're still here. We're very, very blessed in that sense. Very, very lucky. Now let me just have a quick glance. Have I done all of those returns? I have. So that's all there is there. There's nothing else to be done there, so I'm going to close those tabs down, and then after that you are going to have my full attention. I apologise for that. Really, there was no way of avoiding it. It was just the reality. I've got to do it before 11 p.m. Our time here in Thailand, and that's in about 10 minutes. So I've done it. So that's really good. So where were we? We are looking, and I did make it clear that we were looking at the day job, and we've done that now. So thank you for that to the 2 viewers who are there at the moment. I don't know who you are, but it's a pleasure to have you. The second thing that I want to just mention is the fact, and it would be wrong if I didn't mention it. It would be a bit strange, I think. Today, the 30th of July 2021, actually would have been my mum's 70th birthday. Now she died 22 years ago. And so when I was 23, and she passed away. And I don't know, it's quite an odd thing. For many years, I'd sort of just come to terms with my mum, you know, not being here. And then from time to time, different years, things just seem to have a bit more of an effect than at other years. This year, probably last year too, I think the last couple of years, I've just found it a bit tough. And so I did share something on Facebook today which was about my mum, and it was a poem which I had found. And in fact I found it when I was working with Dave, who passed away last week. I'd spoken to Dave. We were planning what bits and pieces he would like in his in his eulogy, really. And one of the things that I had found was a poem which was pretty touching, and so I've adapted that for my mum, and I shared that on Facebook. And I suppose that's all I really wanted to say about that. As far as mum was concerned, she wasn't the most devout Christian going. She was pretty normal, all right. So you know, just because she wasn't the most devout Christian, didn't mean that she didn't have Christian values, and certainly she was christened and confirmed. And you know, church was one of those things which punctuated all of the important things in her life, whether it was weddings or christenings or funerals or whatever. And at those times, actually, she always made a point of ensuring that me and my sister went to Sunday school, and you know, there were Bibles in the house and things like that. And she was pretty clear that I had to go to the Catholic primary school just round the corner from where we lived. My mum was the driving force for that more than anything else. So there we are. I mean, I think that's all I want to say about her. She was lovely, and even though it's been 22 odd years, I think as I see my little boy growing up, and he's 4 now, and yesterday actually it was quite wonderful because he was saying who, right? So that was yesterday. I think I've explained before that his language is a little bit delayed, probably owing a lot to COVID. I'm sure he hasn't been in formal education since February last year, when we stopped going to kindergarten. So more than 18 months later, and 15 months later, whatever, we celebrate every new word, and he's starting to at least echo the sounds of sentences, like the little melodies of sentences, even if he's not saying a sentence. And we celebrated the word who. And it's little things like that. It's these, you know, little benchmarks of development which make me miss mum more. So, yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's how we're reminded constantly of folk who have gone. Anyway, there you are. So I don't mean to, you know, get a downer on it. I did want to mention my mum. And I have. So that's that. Now, another thing I've been working on, and it's not finished, but I've been working on today, is a certificate for the twinning, and I produced a little draft for Father David, and it's not finished. I'm very, very keen to get it finished so I can show you all, and then we can push ahead with the church twinning plans that we have. Hopefully we can get that started. Certainly we can finish the certificates, and then we can get the idea of twinning with other churches underway as soon as possible. And the sooner we get just one church twinned with us, the happier I will be. The whole purpose of churches twinning with us, the whole purpose of us wanting to twin, is really for a few reasons. One really would be that to create kind of informal unions where we can celebrate each other's work and worship and witness, where we can pray for each other, where we can learn from each other, and where we can share ideas for evangelism and service. And I really do hope that churches and folk who watch these streams can see and understand the potential benefits of working with us, irrespective of how many miles, whether that be tens or hundreds or thousands of miles between us, where we can create dialogues and some links. So I'm really excited about that, and I was working on that today. Now the other thing I want to go back to the Church Times, because we had a quick look at the Church Times yesterday, and I think probably it wasn't for very long. In my mind, in my memory, it wasn't for very long, and I kind of think that we could do more. And so for that reason, I think we'll go over to the Church Times now. Let's see what we've got. Come on, computer. Right, where are we? There we are. So there's the Church Times. And what we'll do, we'll make that fit on the page just a little better. And then we can go through it. So we've got the easing of the COVID measures. Now, a couple of things to do with safeguarding. We've got the Smythe report expected next year, the National Safeguarding Team says, and I think this is crucial. I mean, this is one of a conversation I had with a student in China today. The whole thing to do with safeguarding, specifically whether it's young people or whether it's vulnerable adults, I'm afraid to say I don't think that it's rocket science. I worked for almost 20 years with homeless folk, with folk with mental health issues, quite serious addiction issues, very often, sometimes with learning disabilities, and in all cases there were very, very strict boundaries relating to safeguarding of the service user, and also safeguarding of the member of staff or volunteers, to make sure that nothing could happen. Nothing could happen. That's the point, and it couldn't happen either way. So how churches, and I don't mean it's not just one church, it's all churches around the world, and institutions can have not got this right for so long, I find incredibly shocking, actually. And now, most recently, we're reading about the children in Canada, the native children in Canada who were buried, lost as far as parents are concerned, buried in schools, and completely inappropriately. And this is all mixed up with safeguarding, and it's all mixed up with the history to do with Aboriginal children in Australia, and that whole generation, or more than one generation, which was lost. because of forced adoption and all manner of abuse of power. And again, I mean, if we are looking at the church, it extends also to the Magdalene laundries that existed in Ireland. And so, we look back through history with 2020 vision, don't we? We can see the mistakes of the past, and I just don't know how any of these things could go on for so long, and not just be dealt with very, very, very swiftly. So I don't think it's I'm sure it's going to be a very complicated thing, but I don't think it should be complicated. I think it should be extremely straightforward. Spot a couple beaten, power to their elbow, I say. This is about a minority living with prejudice. And we've got climate change as an issue of racial injustice. And of course it is. Because in so many cases, it's the developing world which are going to be suffering far more than the developed world, which has money to mitigate the effects of climate change in so many ways. So that's another one. Now, look, I'm making these comments, and they're offhand and they're casual, and the whole point of this, the world as they see it, the world as we see it, is that it's meant to be just that. All right, we're trying to instigate conversation. We are, albeit occasionally, in a way which sounds quite brash, I suppose, or even facetious. We are trying to get you engaged. We want you to write comments. We want you to engage with us and give us your opinions. And so hopefully by me going through some of these headlines and giving you an opinion, then we'll get some of that engagement. And it doesn't, we're not looking for folk who are only going to agree with us. We're very happy for folk to have a different opinion. And please, if you have a different opinion, come over to Twitch. Do what you need to do to create an account with Twitch, follow us and engage. All right, please, that's what we would like you to do. All right, now one of the things that I know I want to talk to you about as well is Amazon. Okay, I've got a rather long reading list, which I've made a list, and what I would like to do is to share my my list with you on Amazon, and if you feel so inclined to help me by buying me a book and sending it to me, then I would be very, very happy. Of course. So what's this? It says, for your security, approval notification sent to. Okay, sign attempt, yes. Okay, fine. And are we going to approve? Yes, we are going to approve. And hopefully, there we are. Okay, that's good, isn't it? So let me, I'm going to show you a list. And this was suggested to me actually by my sister, who said, look, just put it on a list in Amazon and then share the list. And I thought, oh, that's a clever idea, isn't it? So that's an idea. So I'm going to share the link first of all, okay, with the comment section in Twitch, and then this is my list, and I'm going to now show you my list. Okay, so we've got a few books. Okay, we've got actually those first two, don't worry about. They're just two Stephen Fry books which are needed. We've got the Black, Gay, British Christian, Queer, the Church and the Famine of Grace by Jarrell Robinson Brown, who was involved in an issue earlier in the year and is now, I think he's been confirmed as a curate somewhere in London, and he's come out with a book, and that book is on a list which I was sent. We've got Living in Sin, a bishop rethinks human sexuality. I mean, some of these books are pretty cheap, they're affordable, and I'm going through them trying to get as many as I can as I go. I'm trying to get one book a month as I go, but it's pretty tough because the list is long and it's only going to get longer, right? So this is the reading list I've been sent, and some of these books, as you see, I can't get them in Thailand, right? So where they don't have the add to cart, that means that I can't get it, and that's very, very annoying. But there we are, this is life. I'm sharing the link. I'm going to share the link left, right and centre all the time now, actually, because September will be upon us very, very soon, and I know that my studies are going to be starting imminently with Sarum College, and so that's what we're going to be talking about, no doubt, more and more and more as we get nearer the time for that course to start. Now, in terms of, I think I spoke to you about this a week ago maybe, where there was an issue to do with my ability to prove who I am and where I live, and I've decided that next Monday I'm going to bite the bullet and go to immigration and pay immigration for one of their residency letters or something, and hopefully that will be sufficient. If it's not, then there's very little I can do. Now, I think that's enough about Amazon and reading lists and Sarum College, and I think what we will do, we will get on to Tillich. Okay, it's Tillich time, and Tillich time is something for those of you, I don't know who's watching at the moment, for those of you who have not seen this transmission before, then I will share with you a book which we are reading together. Well, I'm reading it to you, and in the process of reading it to you, it does give me an opportunity to understand it a bit better than if I just read it to myself. So the last thing I think that we said, which was interesting, this is the last bit from yesterday, it is the function of the priest to conserve the sacramental of the priest to conserve and its demonic distortions, but it pays the price of removing the concrete character of revelation and of making it irrelevant to the actual human situation. It elevates man above everything that concerns him actually, and it implies an ultimate negation of his existence in time and space. In spite of these ambiguities, it is the permanent function of mysticism to point to the abysmal character of the ground of being and to reject the demonic identification of anything finite with that which transcends everything finite. It is unfortunate that those in the Kant-Rischel line and those in the neo-orthodox schools in theology have pointed only to the possible and actual abuses of the mystical approach without acknowledging its world historical function of transcending the concrete mediums of revelation toward the mystery which is mediated by